Okay, I am going to be off camera for this one. I'll introduce you,
Sure.
or may I just let you introduce yourself so I don't always pronounce the last names right. So,
Yeah.
Rob?
So I'm Rob Cucci, co-founder and CEO of SpaceSplitter.
And I'm Jeremy Pease, co-founder and CTO of SpaceSplitter.
Excellent, and we were going to talk about this space, because
Yeah.
I don't know much about co-working spaces. This one is called The Alley. It's the most kick-ass or badass?
Badass
The most-
co-working space on the planet.
On the planet.
On the planet.
And the motto is, leave the douchebag at the door.
Nice!
So I don't know how we got in, but...
One of you
No.
is supposed to leave the other,
No.
and we don't know which one it is.
No, whoa. Yeah, so here we are at Alley NYC, and 16,000 square foot loft space here on 37th and 7th in the Garment District. Really cool space. The tenants here are anybody from early stage technology companies. You've got small PR, digital ad agencies even working out of here.
And even some freelancers and independent workers.
Yep. And what I was mentioning to you before in regards to, is this put on by venture capitalists or anything like that? How involved are they? It's a for-profit entity started by a guy named Jason Saltzman, really cool guy that I'll introduce you to the next time you're around.
Awesome.
The Founders Collective has a office here, and the Founders Collective is a venture capital firm that is very founder friendly.
So they're embedded in this space.
They have an office here. They don't, necessarily fund companies at work, but it's just, again, space for them to work out of and operate out of. You do see some other VC firms opening their space. So, for example, Dogpatch Labs, if you've ever heard of that, is a space operated and funded by Polaris Ventures.
Real quick,
Sure.
Peter Flint, but on the Founders Collective, so they're based here, and you may or may not know, but are you saying they're based here and have never once invested in a company that was office here?
I don't know, and they might have. I don't know. I would love to talk to them about our investment opportunity.
Sure.
I
Do they
think
do seed, Series A,
Yep.
that kind of okay.
early stage, and I think they've got a presence in Silicon Valley, but I think this is their New York office.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you were saying Dogpatch and then other guys are also...
Dogpatch, I'm trying to think of some other spaces funded by VC. I don't know of any other spaces, and Dogpatch Labs isn't necessarily an incubator or accelerator. Polaris Ventures funds a space just to create this community of...
Somewhere in here or elsewhere?
Elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
So they actually had space on 12th in between University Place and 4th Avenue. They just closed down the New York City Dogpatch Labs for reasons unbeknownst to me.
That's where I've heard of them. I responded to a job posting that I think Peter Flint of Polaris put up somewhere on the web like 3 or 4 years ago, looking for some kind of biz dev guy to come and help put that thing together.
Yeah.
And I got an email back like, thanks but no thanks. But anyway, I met Peter Flint. But yeah, so that thing is, you're saying that's going away now?
So they operate a few spaces. There's one in San Francisco that is still operating. There's one in Boston that I've been to that's still operational. They closed one in New York down for, again, reasons unbeknownst to me. I think Polaris just wasn't that involved. I mean, Polaris, their presence, to my knowledge, is more in Boston and the Valley, not so much here in New York anymore. But yeah, so I don't know exactly why they shut down the New York one. But.
Okay, so that was, my question was just, are VCs usually directly involved in or behind the formation of these kinds of co-working spaces? And in some cases they're embedded or involved directly here. It's basically a commercial real estate play.
Exactly. I think most of the co-working spaces are like that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if I were to edit this later, we'll call that the end of the section. And kind of commercial real estate is relevant to your business in a way. We've been through this a couple times, but I'm just going to cut you loose because I love the story. You guys, one or both of you was like an RA at
Yeah, we were both resident advisors at Pace University. That's where we actually met. You want us to just run through that story?
Yeah,
then?
please.
Yeah.
And how it went from like kind of a pet project to like a real business, and when you kind of sort of realized this could be a real...
Why don't you start it off?
Real business.
Okay, so we were colleagues in the Housing and Residential Life Department at Pace University. And in that capacity, we were personally responsible for ensuring these, students didn't kill each other. We had to mediate, dozens of roommate conflicts in terms of actually sitting there and, having one student here, and then having them, get everything out in the open and transparent. from there, we noticed a bunch of inefficiencies within the housing department. We kind of looked at each other and said, I think we can do something about this.
It was a bunch of paper forms and carbon copy sheets. And
what year was that?
So that was 2010.
10, and there's still a lot of paper in these university housing departments.
Yeah, there was, and so we saw that as an opportunity. That's where we started the first company that we started together, called Resolutions. And essentially, it's enterprise software for college housing departments.
Yep.
So we help them manage their incoming guests, their packages, a bunch of administrative tasks for their staff, really kind of the room assignment type things, and just kind of a centralized database for everything that the housing department is doing.
Yeah. And kind of from there, we're speaking with a bunch of colleges that we thought would really love the product we built. We were able to acquire 2 paying clients that we still service to this day. But what was interesting, and it's a fundamental challenge with any enterprise solution, is a sales cycle. Super long, right? So about
both paying clients were colleges, universities, right?
So one was a college and another was a property manager that developed only student housing.
Okay.
And again, we still service them, but what we ran into is the fact that 85% of the prospective colleges we spoke with, they said, hey, I love the product much better than what we currently have. We just can't pull the trigger on it for another 2 years. We need to wait for this existing contract to expire before we can bring you guys in. So, Jeremy and I are both patient people, but we weren't going to wait 5 years to build business.
Yeah.
And
that
from
was,
there,
you talked to how many guys, and the average wait was like 6 months to 5 years, or no, I mean, what's the average?
I would say how many colleges? 30, 40 colleges?
At least 30 colleges, maybe even 40 or 50, but we went to a conference, a couple conferences actually, that had colleges there that we spoke with.
And most of them were already using some sort of digital solution, but were locked in, or some were on paper like Pace?
Yeah, so there were really 3 different scenarios we ran into. They were either using some kind of similar software that they were in a long-term contract with, or they were a big enough school where they could develop their own things in-house, which probably weren't as good, but they had to do that anyway. Or 3, which is an interesting case, is whoever the decision maker was actually the one that developed whatever current system they're using, whether it was paper-based or fragmented technologies, and so they were not willing or even considering using something else.
They were conflicted in some way, right?
They like their baby too.
Sure.
And so
there's a pivot here?
Part of that, and then another opportunity we saw was a lot of what we're trying to do is making it easier to manage these roommates.
Right.
And so we thought that people weren't living with the right people, and that's why everyone wasn't getting along, and that's why there were roommate conflicts. So we actually developed a compatibility-based roommate matching algorithm, so think eHarmony for roommates. We matched about 2,000 students, a little over 2,000 students to that. Through that initial company, Resolutions, we were able to compare data from previous years about roommate conflicts and room transfer requests, and we were only able to reduce those by about
4.3%, something
yeah,
like that.
so
maybe meaningful, but not a magnitude,
significant in any way,
right?
shape, or form as far as we were concerned.
Right.
And kind of after seeing that, we said, well, what the hell's going on here? Because we know living with other people is definitely a challenge, and we thought it was such a challenge because, again, they weren't living with folks they were compatible with. So after additional research, and I mean, me and this guy have lived together on 2 different occasions.
I was going to say, there's a personal backstory.
We were roommates twice, we were RAs together, and so we know it's hard living with people, especially if they're not compatible.
Okay, I've got to go on the personal level. What are some annoying things that a roommate might do?
I mean, there's all kinds of crazy. When we lived together, we actually at one time had a 3rd roommate.
Yeah, talk about that guy.
Exactly, I mean,
he masturbates viciously. No.
No, but this 3rd roommate, though, who knows what he actually did, but he would take extremely long showers, like hours.
Calgon, take me away.
Where in the morning, like when we had to get ready to go do whatever we were going to do with the day, where he would just be in there for hours on end.
Yeah, it was really ridiculous. It was it got to a point where we had to sit them down and have a conversation about it and say, hey man, listen, whatever you do in there, keep doing it, whatever, it's none of our business. But when I get up at 7:30 and I've got to be in the office at 8:30 and I'm trying to take a 2-minute shower and you're in there for 45 minutes, again, I don't care what you're doing with yourself or whatever, but we've got to come up with a better way to have everybody get in the shower and do what they need to do in the morning.
Right.
So that was an interesting personal anecdote for us both as we live together.
So I was going to ask, because then there's different segments of the story, and you get to the expense splitting. Was it as simple as that turned out to be one of the biggest areas of conflict, why people didn't work out, or no? What is kind of the missing?
After going through resolutions and the roommate project, which was that roommate matching, we kind of thought long and hard. We interviewed a bunch of roommates, we talked to people we know, we thought about roommate experiences that we've had, and so we concluded...
Yeah, we pretty much discovered that the fundamental challenge roommates have is embracing mutual dependencies. And it's twofold. It's the financial
dependency. Getting into Dr. Phil territory.
Yeah, I hate to sound so academic here, but...
it is academic.
It is pretty academic. It's like, true human behavior. And the reason people have such a tough time living with one another is because embracing those mutual dependencies are a challenge. It's twofold. It's the financial dependencies. Can I count on you to pay the bills on time? Can I count on you to chip in for the products that we share as roommates, things like toilet paper, paper towels, etc. And then the behavioral dependencies. Can I count on you to clean up after yourself, or are you going to be a slob? And can I count on you to help me do the household chores we need to get done? Yeah. So that realization is what led us eventually to SpaceSplitter.
Okay. And then sort of where the rubber meets the road, what were the kind of first, second, third steps to start building a product and revenue model around this problem?
Yeah, so one of the first things we did, interestingly enough, with SpaceSplitter, because we were so familiar with the college residential life market, is one of the paper-based systems that a lot of schools use right now. Really, we've talked to a bunch, about 99% of them use paper-based roommate agreements. So when roommates move in together or when there's a conflict, they fill out a short form of questions about things that they might agree on. So we digitized that on SpaceSplitter to allow roommates to sign up and then go through an electronic form of this roommate agreement that they can then revisit and print and manage that way.
So we felt, by getting this initial product out of the door, it would allow us to have, continue conversations with colleges and get feedback on that. We, from the beginning, also saw it as a great way to drive adoption. Even if we're not charging schools for this roommate agreement generator, if we can convince, let's say, Rutgers University with 15,000 kids living on campus to use this, we can really drive distribution of our digital products, right? By having that type of partnership with a school. So that was always in the back of our minds when we got that, took that first step. When you talk about, how did the ideas around a revenue model start to crystallize?
And let me kind of interject that what I'd like to, you can save the juiciest details. If you're something you'd like to say that you kind of rather reserve for potential investors, we could do like a separate, shorter, 15-minute concise video. So this is kind of like for family-friendly, total consumption. But yeah, the story I think is very fascinating. So please go on.
No, and thank you for that. Whenever you're talking about payments, as you know, it's kind of obvious that you're going to make money in one of a few or multiple ways. With the float, depending on if you have a float, transaction fees, since obviously any type of payments, you're talking about transactions. We originally started thinking about a percentage-based revenue model around the transactions, and what quickly emerged is the fact that when you look at rent, it's such a high-ticket item, and you tie a 1% processing fee on it, and for somebody who's paying $2,000 a month, it's a $20 price point to use this solution. We didn't feel like that made sense. So we, after having thought quite a bit about what percentage made sense, said, hey, a percentage doesn't make sense, and we're going to have to go with a fixed fee per transaction. So that quickly emerged after we thought a lot about that.
And are we still talking about splitting rent? Are we talking about splitting toothpaste? About what are the typical things that you started out, and where has it gone from?
Yeah,
from
so
there?
What we first started out with splitting wise was the household products that roommates share. So whether that's the toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, snacks even, So we have a product on SpaceSplitter called Our List that allows the roommates to purchase products from one of our affiliates that will help us fulfill that order. So right now we have about 50,000 products on the website that roommates can set an individual split on each product with an interactive pie chart. And each roommate,
which I've seen, and they're slick charts. It's a nice interface.
And the roommates pay their individual portion via credit card, and then once each roommate pays their portion, that order gets processed and fulfilled, and we make money off of that off of an affiliate commission. So we get anywhere between 5 and 12% commission off of those orders.
And something I've been very interested in lately that you see, again, there's Dollar Shave Club, and then Amazon does it, is you can just sort of subscribe to a physical shipment of something, and they might give you 4 or 5% off if they know they're going to be able to send it to you every month.
Residual.
Do you guys, is that part of is that feature available if they want to say, hey, I want to get, these things every single month, razor blades, toilet paper, whatever it is?
Yeah, sure. So they can set a reoccurrence to their order. We currently don't offer any type of discount for setting up reoccurrence.
But you could, depending on the affiliate and how you want to set it up.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So affiliates, and you just without getting into too much detail, do you see the business going more into, we're going to do bigger ticket items like rent and utilities, or add more affiliates, or how are you? Who knows, right? But what are the scenarios you're looking for expanding it over time?
Yeah.
Talking about, one of the issues that we face with this splitting the cost of things, especially with smaller ticket products that people can go pick up at CVS or don't necessarily need right now, or they do need right now rather, is that getting multiple people to click that buy button on an order is very challenging.
Right.
Because it's hard enough already to get one person to purchase one thing online, but as soon as you're throwing multiple products in and multiple buy buttons, it gets pretty complicated and it's harder to convince every single roommate to make that purchase. So farther down the road, or very soon rather, we anticipate doing the larger ticket items such as rent and bills.
Yeah. We think bill payment will be big for us. We know it will be big for us.
Bills meaning utilities and have the, I don't know, what kind of bills?
Utility bills, so that's cable, electric, heat and hot water if your property manager doesn't cover that stuff for you, and obviously rent. Rent, I would say, is the bill we'll be focusing the most on.
It's a big opportunity. Right?
It's a huge opportunity. The other point I'll make in regards to the what we've distilled down to kind of as a group checkout option, right? That's what we did with Our List. That's the group payment technology we built there, and it's, in our opinion, scalable, right? We are okay with the notion of cannibalizing Our List as our own product if we can convince soap.com to drop this group checkout option on their website. We're cool with that.
Right, that'll be huge. Yeah.
And that in our opinion is one, to your question, potential scenario that we see unfolding for us. We're trying to talk at with the folks over at Quidsy, who owns soap.com, WAG, etc. Drugstore.com, now owned by Walgreens, to get that type of group checkout option on a drugstore.com and a soap.com, I think that could be huge for us. And I think that's one day where we'll see that technology going.
Yes, that's a great opportunity. Okay, so that's all the top level questions I had. Am I missing anything in terms of, universities? It's an interesting space, and you talk about something that I found interesting. I think people like to hear about it. Is you sell to university. To what extent can you suddenly hit thousands of people at once versus having to just have a campus ambassador and kind of win the hearts and minds one by one? You go into the dorms themselves. You go into the housing department that gets all of the university owned and operated dorms. Like, how does that process work?
Yeah. So we've been speaking with a bunch of college housing departments. To date, we've demoed to
upwards of 20. Probably between 15 and 20.
Yeah, about 20 different schools. And what we're offering them is completely free. So that roommate agreement generator, that product we are providing to the college, so that way they can tell all of their students living in their dorms on campus to fill out this roommate agreement. And the way we're working with them is we give them a free administrative view of all of those rooms with all of those agreements, so that way they can view every room if there's a problem or who hasn't filled out a roommate agreement. And the the way that we're working with them is they actually send us an export of their roster with every single student's name and email address, so we can pre-set up their account and send them that email. So then we instantly acquire every user on campus.
So they're getting free software, and they understand you're getting that data. It's again, we talk about, you know, some of these guys, you know, whether you're Walgreens or you're soap.com, any, you know, consumer products online retailer, getting data about kids in college who need certain things and want their lives to be, you know, they don't want to waste time, right? They want to do it the quickest, easiest way possible, and, you know, of course, why wouldn't they? But if you can get them to start using a product at that stage in their life and it's really efficient and they love it, they might use that for the next 80 years, right?
Absolutely.
So that's very valuable data. How do those discussions with universities go about, you know, look, they're getting free software, so you get these email addresses and names and whatever, and you basically you just own that and can do anything you want with it forever? Is that, or are there negotiations around that?
So there definitely are, and schools are always concerned, hey, are you going to go sell these .edu email addresses to poker and porn websites, right?
Right.
And so...
Of course we are.
Yeah, of course we are. And that's what these kids want. They want poker and
Right.
porn. No, so the way we think about it, and we're totally transparent about what we do with the data, we say we only want your students to receive offers from us if they're relevant. Not only if they're relevant based on demographic, but if what we have to offer is truly valuable or could be valuable to them, you know, that's the only thing we want to get through. You know, we're not selling the email addresses, but we as a company have partnered with other companies. MoveLine, for example, is a TechStars alumni company. They're disrupting the moving space.
Is that the video?
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
And so we will, you know, promote MoveLine to those email addresses. But we're not going to sell those email addresses to MoveLine. So that's how we're able to kind of curate, if you will, the types of offers they receive as a result of us having that data. Okay,
well that's a good example or a good way to describe the value of the data. And how you add value is that you're not a reseller of data. You're the lockbox that data sits inside, and you work with your clients, your partners, to best leverage that data. Right?
Yep, right.
Very interesting. Okay, that kind of I'm just going to say that we'll edit that or it's done. But
and I'm listening. I got